Another week, another disappointing and uncompetitive Jets loss. Where do we go from here, Jets fans? To break it all down and talk about the state of this 0-5 team, I am joined by BuffaloJetFan on the other side of it, so let's get into it.
Bring that here, all right? Go up there and press them and choke them out.
What is going on, Jets fans? It's your boy DT back on the Monday live stream. This week it's my turn to host the duo that most people ask me for in the YouTube comments all throughout the week. So let's bring them on now. Our guy, BuffaloJetFan. What's up, Kev? How we doing today?
What's up, man? Dude, I like the house music intro. I feel like I'm at the University of Buffalo in 2012.
Oh gosh, Gator gave me a choice of different music, and I was like, you know what? I actually kind of like this one. It's more upbeat. It gets me going a little bit. It gets the juices going. So I had to do it. And unlike my intro, the Jets show no upbeat and no life. So
yeah, that was like peak 2010 to 2016 white dude music, man. That was great.
Yeah. Sophomore in high school, Dylan rocking to like Skrillex right there. Right.
What's with the Fox hat?
It's the Carolina Core. It's a minor league soccer game that I took my nephew to a couple weeks ago, and we got like field level passes for my brother's work event that he was doing, and I couldn't sport the Jets, so I'm sporting me with the hoodie, with the DT hoodie, and we'll go Carolina Core for this one.
I like it. It's a pretty sweet logo. Any talent there? Can a safety we could use?
There's definitely some talent. I don't know how it translates well enough, and we already have a guy who can't leave the soccer ball alone. And now we're traveling to a stadium where it's like encouraged to bring a soccer ball. So I'm not really, let's just make Alan Lazard a healthy scratch. And I think we're already off to a good start with this week. But before we get ahead of ourselves and go to London, we got to talk about what happened yesterday. Obviously, another uncompetitive loss. I don't know if you follow ESPN analytics throughout the game when you watch like Gamecast or box scores or team stats or any of that, but they gave the Jets a 25.6% chance to win the game after the Brees fumble. And then after Dallas took it down and scored 17-3, it was an 8.9% chance.
What was it before the Brees fumble?
It was like 48%.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happened with the Braylon Allen. In Miami, it was about 51% Jets. It bumped all the way down to 38, and it never got higher with Braylon Allen. And that was on the first drive. This one was on the third drive of the game, and it was all the way down to 9%. By the time we get to halftime, because of the 66-yard run with Javonte Williams, we're at 4%. Another completely uncompetitive first half from this Jets team. And as Bill M. points out, they closed favorited by 1.5 points in this game. I know Vegas had a weird line throughout the whole week. It started -2.5 in the Cowboys' favor. And then all the injuries that Dallas sustained. Like when are they going to realize that? Week 2, we realized in Buffalo as a Jets fan, it does not matter who's hurt on the other team. That injury list does not matter for the other team. And then we saw it again in Tampa Bay. They had no offensive line and no who was it? Chris Godwin, and then Mike Evans even got hurt. Didn't matter. Week 4 against Miami, Tyreek Hill, his whole leg turned sideways, and that still doesn't matter. And they have 2 offensive linemen as backups already from earlier in the season. And now this week, they're basically missing their entire offensive line and 2 premier weapons on their offense. And they have some guy named Ryan Flournoy go for 114 in the first half. Like, where are you at with this whole team? And like, what's your temperature level through 5 games?
I mean, the temperature level is what we're seeing in the present is unacceptable, and it doesn't leave a lot of optimism for the future so far. I think that's really all you can say. This one was really tough to defend because there's no way to cope around it. And I think it's revisionist history to turn around and say, well, of course you lose to Dak Prescott and a practice squad offense. Of course you're down 30-3 to them in your own building. Everyone expected that. That's always what was supposed to happen. You were favored by 1.5 heading into the game, and they just laid down and died. It almost seems like this whole, in each game, there's a moment where the team dies and they can't come back from it. And sometimes it's on the first drive, sometimes it's in the second half. But almost the Gibson fumble was almost it. I think it broke them for the year because it was like we're playing so well. We're up 27-16 or whatever it was. Fields is playing out of his mind. The Steelers, they're a playoff team. They're supposed to beat us. Everyone's saying we're tanking. We suck. We're up 10. Like, holy crap. We're the stuff that Glenn was selling, like it's actually working. Boom, fumble. And it's like the whole year because it's a micro. And I'm not saying Gibson. It could have been any play. But that's like my biggest takeaway is that this team really struggles to bounce back from any adversity whatsoever.
Yeah, I think the slogan I've been going to this year a lot, and it goes all the way back to the Xavier Gibson fumble, which 9-point lead in the fourth quarter. That is a game you have to close out. You can't give Aaron Rodgers that short field. It was like 23 yards to go score the go-ahead touchdown. And I understand we turned around and scored a touchdown back, but it was still too much to overcome. And it feels like that was the huge letdown game for the Jets, and they've been so deflated ever since. And they're so dejected every time a costly penalty happens or a turnover happens that they can't overcome. So the whole time this year, at least since Tampa Bay, the gut punches are becoming fatal blows. And I understand in boxing terms, you can win with gut punches. Obviously, everybody goes for the haymakers and the knockouts to the head, but you can win on body blows if you throw enough of them. The Jets lose on one body blow. Like it's just that one kidney shot, and all of a sudden we're down on our knee and we can't get up. And it's becoming embarrassing. And it has started with the Xavier Gibson thing. And we can go game by game and probably find 6 plays that change the entire landscape of this season. But we can't have that. We can't let that small number of plays when you've played 400 snaps of offense and 400 snaps of defense. Those 6 plays can't make or break and be 0-5. And honestly, I'm at the point now, especially after this game, I don't even think those 6 plays really change much because this is one of the worst teams in the NFL, if not the worst, especially after watching the Saints put up 26 against a bad Giants team. And I understand the Giants are bad, but the Saints were still able to get it done, almost scoring 30 points. And then the Titans come back on some very fugazi touchdowns and a non-touchdown, the one that was the interception fumble recovered in the end zone by Tennessee. And then they had the Arizona running back drop it at the goal line, Malachi Corley style. But the Titans still pulled out a win at the end of that game. So it's like those bad teams that we're comparing ourselves to went out and found ways to win. And I understand the Cowboys are better than the Dolphins, especially offensively. But the past 2 weeks, this defense or the offenses that we've played against defensively have been so bad. Like the Dolphins, the Cowboys, and the Jets are probably the 3 worst teams defensively coming into this week. And we made them look like they were contending for a long Super Bowl run in the NFC. It's embarrassing. No quarterback hits on Dak, 14 against Justin Fields. It's just unsustainable all around. So offensively, my biggest thing is where to point the finger. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter where you point it. You're probably going to be right. If you want to say Justin Fields holds on to the ball too long, you're probably right. If you want to say the offensive line is leaky at times, you're probably right. If you want to say there's nobody outside of Garrett Wilson getting open, you're probably right. And that's the part about being 0-5 and so unevaluatable with this offense is like, who do you blame? So I'm going to ask you, like, where do you see this offense? And like, do you think it's as bad as it is, or do you think it's worse than people are making it out to be?
Well, in terms of where to point the finger, I've never seen a Jets season where, yes, all the above, everyone, there's no every unit, every part of the staff is just all pretty much bad besides the rushing offense and like Garrett Wilson. And the offense, let's be honest, week 1 was awesome and that was legit. And that was a pretty good defensive opponent in Pittsburgh that did take the ball away like crazy. And the Jets didn't give it away on offense. It was only Gibson who turned it over. So that was a great performance by the offense. But since then, it has been, you have 3 points heading into the third quarter or midway through the third quarter, and teams kind of back off a little bit, not full garbage time, all of it, because not all of it were they like mathematically out of the game, but teams are willing to give up long drives, and Justin Fields can hit an 8-yard hitch route to Mason Taylor, and Mason Taylor can catch an 8-yard hitch route, and that's great. But that's what a lot of the offense has been. And did anybody have any doubt though that when the Bucs need to come get you, or when even the Dolphins needed to come get you, or the Colts, if they wanted to keep their foot on the throttle, the Jets would have scored like 10 points in that game if the Colts really wanted to keep coming, because the Jets offense collectively still has not found an answer to other teams jailbreak blitzing them at will. And you look at sack differential, they don't sack the quarterback, they don't hit the quarterback, and their quarterback gets hit all the time. That's why this team is bad. And guess what, Dylan Turman? We're playing the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are number 1 in the NFL in sack differential. They are plus 17. They protect their quarterback. They hit your quarterback. Guys, they're going to undress us. I don't know what else to tell you. The Denver Broncos are probably going to give it to us pretty good, because look no further than that. They protect their quarterback. They hit your quarterback. We can't do anything about it. Not being able to take advantage of playing 2 offensive lines, well, really 3 horrible offensive lines in a row, 2 of which were playing 80% backups. I mean, like, I don't know, man. It's pretty bad all around. Ironically, offensively, you still kind of feel like maybe you might have a little bit with Ingstrand. The offensive line, there's still talent there, although they had a very bad game. I think this game particularly, like, I thought the Tampa Bay game and the Bucs game, Fields and Tyrod held the ball way too long and missed open receivers. Fields did that a couple times earlier in this game, where he had a sack and a intentional grounding back to back, both where he just has to throw the ball. But then there was a good stretch where he didn't have a chance, where he was just and dude, Olu is losing reps, man. Olu's getting beat. I don't know how else to say it. It doesn't mean he's a bust. It doesn't mean this. Doesn't mean Bowers. Like, however you want to take him.
Don't do that.
We're just the theme of this podcast is we watch the game and we say what happened. Everything else you want to take it and say this. We're just gonna watch the game. This is what happened. Olu Fashanu, besides the Miami game, has been just beaten in his one-on-one matchups in pass pro, even adjusting for Justin Fields' time to throw. And that's just not ideal.
Yeah. So for everybody in the chat, I will not be doing a rewatch. I will not be play charting this game. Instead, I am promising a college breakdown of some position, whether it's quarterback or wide receiver, later on this channel. The very first rep, I went back just on the broadcast angle just to look at the first drive again. The very first rep, it was a 3-yard hook route to Mason Taylor over the middle that Justin Fields barely got away when we had 7 men in to protect. We kept an extra tight end and the running back chipping as he got out, and they still got home with 4. Olu got beat on the outside shoulder immediately and was wrapping up Justin Fields as he was throwing it. The very first play of the game. And I just remember, I'm like, okay, that's not good. We cannot have 6+ or 7 in to protect, and they're only rushing 4. Then, like you said, it doesn't matter. They get up 7 points, 10 points real easy on us because our defense allows them to, and they tee off. They send 5, 6 men pressure, sometimes 7, and there's no shot of this team protecting. The tight ends can't do it. The backs can't do it. Offensive line, if it's just straight up 5 versus 4, they usually can handle it more often.
That's where we get our garbage time points, because when it's a 4-man rush, that O-line can hold up fine. Also, I think part of it is Fields not sliding his protection properly.
Yes, I was just about to say that. I don't know whether the communication is an issue from coaching to quarterback or quarterback to offensive line, or all 3 parts equal. That's the part of this that's so hard to understand right now, is which part of it is not getting the protection set. Is it Engstrand not letting Fields, letting him know before the clock gets down to 15 in his helmet, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Maybe slide 4 to the left, or maybe he's not communicating that to the offensive line well. There was a rep where Beck was in the backfield as a fullback. I believe it was I formation or offset I formation. And he yells, "Who's the mic?" And that's the second time this year you can catch a hot mic asking on our offense, who is the mic? I'm sorry, but the first thing everybody does on offense, whether it's the offensive line or the quarterback, their job is, all right, Mike 54, Mike 59, and they point to the guys. Like, they tell you where they're running to. It's not rocket science. So for them to not even be on that same page after last week with all the pre-snap penalties and all the procedural penalties, I'm just like, maybe this is coaching, not getting them through those detailed points of like pre-snap plays from huddle to snap is such a process for the Jets. It's like pulling teeth. And I understand Rodgers had his shortcomings that he liked to call hike at 1 second. The guys were lined up and he knew where he wanted to throw. He was just trying to get that perfect look. This time we're not lined up. We're not set. We don't know where we're going. And a lot of the time it's miscommunication. And that leads to those quick losses up front by the offensive line. So there is so much of the offensive line has looked really good, but then there's also the part of, when it's bad, it's awful. It's like truly awful. Before we keep going, I do have to acknowledge some super chats. Yukon Jet, $2 super chat. I appreciate you. He says week 18 win versus Buffalo's bench to lose the number 1 pick. If we get that far and we still hold the number 1 pick, I feel like there's nothing we can do to surrender it, but Buffalo will find a way to aid us in not having that pick. But I feel like in most cases, we're better off not having the first pick. But that's just me right now as of week 5. We still got a long way to go. And then Peter Castro, $2. I appreciate you as well, Peter. None of them know what they're doing. They are cluster F'd. Yeah, they pretty much are, Peter. I saw you earlier. You said, DT, we suck. The entire team sucks. Scissors, Wilkes blows, and DT new coach. So you're ranting. I see that for sure. Maybe a new defensive coordinator. BJF, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, well, I think with Wilkes, I don't think if they fire him, it's going to change the Jets' win total this year. So I don't even think you fire him as a solution to this year's problems. I think maybe you make a change at defensive play caller as a diagnostic tool to see, okay, if it's somebody else, like, is Jamie and Sherwood really this bad? Is this like a contract? Like, who can actually play and what is schematics? Can you get any sort of information, especially if you lose to Denver and you're 0-6 at the bye? You can't just come out of that bye week and say, okay, we'll just do it harder. Like, whatever we're doing, we're going to do it harder. Like, that's not an option. So that's one button that they could push, because they're not going to, like, okay, go from Fields to Tyrod. That does nothing for us. Engstrand is a rookie, so he's shown some promise. They're obviously not going to change like head coach or GM or whatever on week 6. So that is one button that they could push. And maybe it's a quiet quit like they did with Hackett, where he keeps his title, whatever. But, Wilkes, I think maybe the game has passed him by. He was out of the league last year. He's been kind of one and done in a lot of different stops. So it might be something to try. Now, if you're Glenn, problem is if you yank him now and the defense doesn't improve, he might want to save that as a card that he can push at the end of the year, right? To try and make sure that his job is secure, which, I mean, gosh, they would have to probably go like win 1 or 2 games for that to be a conversation. So hopefully it doesn't get that bad, but this game was like, holy crap, man. Like, they really look so far away. They really do.
Yeah. We'll get to the top dog, Aaron Glenn, in a second, but with Steve Wilkes, you have to start by relinquishing some of his duties and taking them on to yourself. If you're Aaron Glenn, whether you say it publicly or not, you have to be responsible for third downs. Like, I remember the whole like Gase and Loggins thing, but this is now the defensive version of it. It's like,
I remember that.
Oh yeah, Dole gives me 3 plays in the headset, and I call them, and we go over third downs together. And it's, they're basically telling you they just want to get a 3 and out with Frank Gore and punt it. But that's what Aaron Glenn has to do. He has to take over some sort of play calling duty from Steve Wilkes. And I think you could start on third down. I understand there were times where He did look man pre-snap, and then he went to a Tampa 2 in that red zone where he overthrew the tight end in the seam route. We went to Tampa 2 post-snap after showing man pre-snap, and I was like, okay, we're doing things, but it's like it feels like the timing of it is wrong, and it feels like they try something like a couple times, and if it doesn't work when they happen to do it, they just completely go away from it. Like the cover or the quarter half that they tried the week prior in Miami, they did it like once, and they're like, okay, we're not going to do this again. So this time, I think AG has to do something because it is a bit of a double-edged sword, right? If he takes over the play calling entirely and publicly says, I'm stripping Wilkes of the duties, but I'm not firing him, yes, he can fire Wilkes at the end of the season, but if the defense doesn't vastly improve over the next 12 games, Glenn is still equally responsible because now we have a 5-game sample size of Wilkes and a 12-game sample size of AG's defense, and if nothing changes, I honestly think AG would be more inclined to get fired for that. But also, it's like, do you quietly take it over and just slowly, pull back what Wilkes can do so that way you're not facing that public heat? Because as soon as the heat goes directly to Aaron Glenn in terms of play calling, he has nothing left to fall back on. So 12 games is a long time to figure it out, but something has to give, because the next part of my question is, if nothing changes, what do you need to see in this point to not just, we can get down the rabbit hole of what trusting them with the high draft pick, but like trusting them to survive January and not be fired right away.
Dude, I do think this is the kind of game where it's not just a WFAN talking point. Like there might be a conversation. It's a long season to go. Obviously, they're not going to make any big changes now. What does Woody Johnson need to see? That's all that really matters. I don't know the answer to that question. Mm-hmm. But I think the bar was pretty low coming into the season, and not even talking about being fired, but like what our expectations were. And, I put a poll on Twitter right before the season opener, and I said over under 7.5 wins. And it had like 6,000 responses, and it was like a dead 50-50. So people were saying like 7.5. Now, of course, people will spin the block and say, no, it was always going to be 0-17 and you're supposed to like it. But that's not what we were saying before. And if other people said that about the Jets, people would have, spoken up and defended and said, no, we're not going to be that bad. So I think that's a little bit too much of a cope that you can be the only winless team and, have a negative gazillion point differential and be down 30-3 against in a game you were favored at the beginning of the game. I don't think that is excusable. So they have to, like, from here on out, let's just burn these tapes. Okay, how many games you got left? 12. Mm-hmm. Dude, you got to win 4 of them. Yeah. You got to win 4 of them, right? Because we look at the infamous 2021 Lions, right? Which, Dylan, did anyone care on like September 1st that Dan Campbell started 0-1
No.
No one cared about that. Like,
no.
Well, and then all of a sudden, like,
that is the highest potency of copium I've ever heard.
Dude, it's like the new, Peyton Manning threw a bunch of interceptions his rookie year. It's like, okay, so then that means what? Like JJ McCarthy is good or something? I don't know. Like, evidence of being bad is not evidence that you're going to be good in the future.
I love that. That's my favorite BJFism, by the way.
Being bad is bad. Being good is good. Improving towards being good is good. Regressing towards being worse is bad. Like, we have to, because we get into these things where people start saying like, well, it wasn't all built in a day and you can't fix a whole roster in a day. And is the color blue you see the same as the color blue I see? And like, who knows what is anything? Like, what happens when we die? And it's like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, the team is 0-5. What are you talking about? No, let's talk about what specifically is happening there. 0-5. Drives me nuts. Anyway, what was even the topic? What are we talking about?
What you need to see from AG.
So win 4 of these games. The Detroit Lions, right? They started 0-8 at their bye. Then post-bye, they finished 3-5-1, and they were outscored by an average of like 1.6 points per game. Now, 2 of those games, Jared Goff was injured and Tim Boyle started. They lost them both. So if you look at the games where they had Jared Goff post-bye week, they were 3-2-1 and had a positive point differential. So they looked like an average team when they had their guy. And let's be honest, even if it's Tyrod, that's still not Tim Boyle. That's pretty much a wash. at QB. So unless Brady Cook gets out there, whether it's Fields or Tyrod, if we're following the Dan Campbell 0-11 or whatever script, then the Jets should look like an average team, the back half of the season, because that's kind of what the Lions were. So that's fair to me. And that means at least you got to win 4 of these games.
4 is the minimum for me. Like I feel like at this point, just due to how bad it is on the surface, anything less than 5 because of last year, and you just entertain that all off season of this team couldn't win as many games as the Aaron Rodgers led Jets with no coach and no GM and barely any coordinators to speak of. Like,
no kicker.
I feel like the bar has to be 5. And do I think this team can go 5-7 in its final 12? It's really hard to sit here honestly and tell you that I think they can do that. Well, do I hope they can? Of course I do. I hope they win starting this weekend, but it's just like, yeah, it's a tough situation when you're in this first year as AG. You told people most of the season or off season that you're looking to win right away. You're trying to be a competitive rebuild. You have your fans and your players buying into a competitive rebuild, and 5 games in, you're saying it's going to take time, fellas, at the presser today. It's like, it's so hard to really walk that back. And like, I understand maybe from the coach speak perspective, that's kind of what you have to do publicly.
Yeah.
But when you have guys like Quinnen Williams, who's your longest tenured guy, who is so against a rebuild, and then he was bought in and he's saying, oh, this is the hardest I've ever practiced since Alabama. And like, I really see what the coaches are doing here. That's going to wear fast when all of a sudden we're in a rebuild. And we said it offline here. We thought maybe next year would be the year of the playoffs once we discovered what we had, and we had 2 off seasons to really correct the roster and get guys in that fit the scheme. It almost looks like 2027 now has to be the season where it's like, that's the expectation year of getting to the playoffs. Like, we might be 12 games this season and 17 games next season. We might be 30 games away from talking about a playoff season. And Kev, honestly, that's disgraceful, because I feel like this team has so much talent and it shouldn't be that bad. And yes, maybe Jets fans, and myself included, like to overrate our players, especially like Peter says, Sauce Gardner really overrated. Like, sometimes we do overrate our players. That's fine. But nobody, probably like most people, didn't think the defense was going to be the reason that it's this bad. So over the next 12 games, I want to see AG, take control of this team, bring it back to what you said you wanted it to be, and build it, brick by brick, Lego by Lego, whatever the thought process was there with those quotes, and show us something. You said you wanted a team that we can be proud of. And right now, through 5 games, I don't think there's one Jets fan out there that is proud of what this team has put on tape, especially the last 16 quarters. The last 16 quarters, we might have played a quarter and a half of competitive football. That's disgraceful.
Yeah, I mean, it's not acceptable to Garrett Wilson, so why should it be acceptable to us? He's disgusted by it. Why should it be acceptable to us? I mean, yeah, with Coach Glenn, like, I think he gets a pass for the initial spring presser where he says, I'm not here to rebuild, I'm here to win now, because he has a boss and he can't say we're gonna suck, right? So okay, I get that. They have to sell their tickets and whatever, and that's the PR thing he has to do. But he also did, and I don't remember the exact quotes, but he did multiple times insinuate that the problem of why the Jets were bad last year was because of their coaching. And he made a point to say there was a lot of talent and they were bad because of their coaching, and Michael Clemens could be fixed. And like Tony Adams, people keep saying, oh, it's like, well, the Salah's guys. Well, Clemens didn't have to be your guy. You could have cut him and saved $3.7 million. Tony Adams, they picked him up as an RFA for $3 million. Like, you could have easily, those could have easily not been.
And that number was only high because of times that he was playing on the field when he shouldn't have been playing, and he got escalator bonuses.
Right.
Like, how do you get benched by the owner? You still come back in and play the rest of that season, and you make enough money to then earn a higher contract in the next season when you shouldn't even be here. It's just like, we've compounded the decision 4 times negatively with Tony Adams that, like, we're so pot committed to Tony Adams that he and Michael Clemens are a bit. they're a complete bit on this defense.
Especially Adams, because Clemens is still somehow like they have multiple edge players who are worse than him somehow. But Tony Adams,
Yes.
dude, I can't believe like you drafted Malachi Moore and AZ Thomas, and now you traded for Brownlee and he was active, and I'm still seeing Tony Adams on my TV. It's unbelievable. But yeah, it's like those are some decisions when I think when you make those kind of statements, okay, and then it's like, oh, Michael Clemens, and then people, and then he says like, oh, well, if you don't play, you don't really understand the value that Michael Clemens has, and it's like, dude, this isn't rocket science. Like I think we're past that. I think we're past anybody associated with the Jets speaking with some authority as if no one outside of it can understand what it's supposed to look like when we can actually watch other teams and we can watch them hit a pass and make a block and make a tackle. And you're telling us that like Michael Clemens, like we don't understand like the value that he brings. And it's like, all right, man, whatever, Yeah. So that the messaging has been kind of tough, but at the same time, let's not mince any words. I mean, the roster is pretty barren. Like at some tough spots, like at edge is a really tough spot to be playing multiple unplayable guys. They're down linebackers. The safeties are just bad. I don't know, man. It's just not. It's not good. It's not good. It feels like they need 15 players.
Yeah, I see our buddy Allen in the chat under a new name here, but Barron, McGregor, and Clemens obviously are unplayable on the defensive line. You have Malinois, who's basically unplayable as a linebacker. Tony Adams and Andre Cisco are both, pretty much out of there. So that's 6 of your 11 starters right now on defense. And they're only starting because of injuries, obviously, but still, that's 6 players right there on your defense that shouldn't even be close to the field. They should be 2 injuries away at best from seeing the field. Obviously, offensively, we know the shortcomings in the skill player positions, but this looks like an offseason where you're going to have to replace 37, 40 bodies on this roster. And I know it's a 90-man roster.
But it's a lot of expiring contracts. I think it's like 30 plus expiring contracts.
And they did a lot of one-year deals specifically this year. I'm looking at all the re-signings they did. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, because Cisco was one, like Myers was one.
18 one-year contracts. And obviously that includes Derek Nottie, who's not here anymore. But still, they have so many players on one-year contracts. Like Cisco's gone, Adams, Oliver, who's god-awful. Josh Myers.
You know who I want to bring back that I never thought I would say? I kind of want to bring back Max Mitchell as a depth offensive lineman.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Highest graded offensive lineman, PFF grade for the Jets.
I think Mitchell has actually turned out to be somewhat okay, like as a backup.
I remember looking at your live tweets, and you said, "Why am I seeing Max Mitchell on the field to start the Miami game?"
Play, I was like, "Who died?"
Literally.
No, you can't go jumbo on me. And they zoomed right in on his back on the first play. I'm like, why would you? I'm like, I need a warning.
They really did, and I remember seeing your tweet that said, "Why am I looking at Max Mitchell on the field?" And then maybe 20 minutes later, you're like, the Jets have the highest EPA per rush with Max Mitchell on the field.
Dude, it was working.
I'm like,
Max
the
Mitchell
360,
was cooking.
The 360 we all did, but see, that's called using a guy in the right moments, right? And putting that guy in the best position to win, not asking him to go out there and play right tackle for an entire game and block for Aaron Rodgers. Like this, it doesn't against the Rams, who had Jared Verse at the time. Like it just shit doesn't work like that. So yeah, this team is going to go through a lot of changes, and that's no excuse on the coaching staff. I still think it's about, we're probably about 18 months away from seeing the full product on the field. Like halfway through next season, you'll finally probably see that breakthrough that they're talking about, which is so upsetting. Real quick, I see 120 of you guys in the room. I really appreciate it. Hit the like button for us. I understand the Jets don't deserve our support anymore, but I certainly appreciate your support. I know Kev definitely appreciates the support on his channel at BuffaloJetFan. Give him a subscribe. Give me a subscribe. We're on the road to 2,000, and we'll be doing giveaways along the road. Gave away a couple DT t-shirts last week to a couple winners that have hit me up. I have the names here for people to hit me up again. So get in contact with me, and I'll get you a DT t-shirt. We got another order going out later this week. So really excited to finally get some t-shirts out there. Support if you can't support the Jets, I certainly appreciate it. And we're in this together. There will be some college breakdowns coming on the channel. Wide receivers specifically. I'm not going to go the entire quarterback route all season. I understand it's an important position that a lot of people are going to look at, but I'm looking at wide receiver. I'm looking at defensive tackle. I'm looking at linebacker, and not just with the first round picks. I'm talking like top 50, top 75 picks. I know we don't have a third round pick, but maybe we find a way to get one. So those will be the positions I'm looking at. So stay tuned for all those college breakdowns. No mock drafts yet. I'm trying to push off as much as I can with that, but the all 22 breakdowns we can watch and we can observe and we can do the thing. But I'm not doing Mocktoberfest or any of that.
You can
stuff.
dabble. You can dabble.
Yeah, we could dabble. I haven't even looked at any of the mock draft machines or anything like that.
No, people were posting that. Well, Nick Shine sent one in our a group chat this morning, a full-fledged mock with trades, Dylan.
Wow.
Nick.
And he's more optimistic than probably both of us combined. I feel like he's a
good bellwether. He's a good bellwether. When you lose Nick, then you know you suck.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, we're not at full mock off season just yet.
No, I don't even know the
Trevor and Connor do the fix the franchise on the Jets, then we can probably go through that. But,
man, I'll be interested to see what they come up with. It's gonna have to be a multiple year. Like you're gonna have to do.
And Connor's gonna push for a multiple year. Yeah, 100%. A couple questions from you guys in the chat. I've been starring along the way. I certainly haven't missed any of these. I promise. As I can't find the chat as soon as I said that. Johnny Boy, question for the panel: getting kicked in the nuts or watching the Jets? Somebody said who's kicking, and he said Greg Z from last year. Then it says it doesn't matter because they're gonna miss.
Yeah, you might miss.
BJF, what say you? Watching the Jets or getting kicked in the nuts?
The Cowboys Jets, I would take a kick to the nuts over that one for sure.
Just one kick? Yeah, I mean the pain would certainly be shorter than 3.5 hours.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I don't know. They might start. I mean, it's probably time to thinking about if they're going to trade anybody at the deadline. I think is like the next combo that comes up because it is like a month away. So,
do you think there is anybody worth siphoning out of this roster at the deadline?
I think they might trade Breece, and that's not because he's bad. I thought he was awesome yesterday, besides the fumble, which is unfortunate. He had like over 100 scrimmage yards on like 16 touches. So that was good. Will be worse without him, but if you see his post game, it doesn't seem like he wants to be here, and it doesn't seem like he has any intention of re-signing. So if he's not going to be here next year and you're 0-7 or 1-7 or 1-8, whatever you're going to be at the trade deadline, and you could get some sort of pick for him, then yeah, I think you'd have to a 4th round pick or whatever it is, a 4th and a 6th swap, whatever, is more valuable than 10 games of Breece Hall in a lost season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know
there's some teams that could use him for sure.
The Braylon Allen trade, obviously, or injury, makes things a little murky, right? Because he's an 8 to 12 week injury that's well through the trade deadline after week 9. So like you're thinking, okay, are we going to use the bell cow and Breece Hall right up until the deadline and then just cut bait with him and then rely on Isaiah Davis and Khalil Herbert to get us through until Braylon's back healthy potentially for the last 2 games of this season? I feel like Braylon Allen at this point might better off be on the season-ending IR. If it's 12 weeks from last week and he doesn't, come back at the very beginning of that timetable, 8 weeks, you're still only going to see 3 games of him. Is there anything in that 3 games, like you said, in the lost season that's worth it? So they might just have to go patchwork at running back. My only thing is they've been telling us they want to be a run-heavy team. So if you strip your best talented running back out of that room, it really, obviously, not that it matters anyway, but defenses are just going to load up and come after you. And it doesn't really matter at that point. Obviously, we need to show that we can stop it now with Breece Hall, but it makes everything so tough. And that's part of the whole we're so bad we can't evaluate phase. And that's like where you never want to be bad. Like at least the Titans, they have Cam Ward and they have some, rookie pieces that they can look at. Their defense has, a handful, maybe like 2 or 3 guys that are like worth, monitoring for the future. Where is that guy for the Jets? Like, who is that guy that you're saying, I really got to see what he is for the future? We feel like we already know Mason Taylor is going to be just fine, regardless of who the passer is. He has some of the surest hands. Yesterday was so fun watching him. I understand a lot of it was garbage time, and I don't really care about that.
Dude, it's still great hands and great body control for a 21-year-old against NFL players.
Point to shield off defenders and catch it outside his frame so strongly and not bobble it and carry it all the way
especially
to the
on
ground
high velocity throws coming from not that far away from him. Yeah,
exactly. Man. Yeah, every single one of his catches to me was like pretty impressive. And then obviously, we're not even evaluating Garrett Wilson. We know what he is. Best 2-yard catch I've ever seen in my life. By the way, saved a pick 6, but best 2-yard catch I've ever seen. Like, dude is just a monster. You can't even say that you're looking to try to evaluate Arian Smith because all he's doing is running cardio. And then there's games where he's just not open, and that's, scheme and also defensive scheme against us. So it's like, okay, great. We're evaluating an offensive line and hoping that they can, take care of the future of the quarterback position for us. And that's really all we have to evaluate. Defensively, who is the guy that you're evaluating? Like, there is not one guy out there. Malachi Moore, sure, we can evaluate him. My early impression, he needs more time. He needs to develop. His rookie lumps are pretty bad, and they played him at nickel all week or all game yesterday.
That's a tough ask.
It was a tough ask. And they put him in, again, why are we putting players in bad positions to win when all we hear about is we just want to put the players in the best position to win?
You know what Malachi Moore's role, I think, is, like, at least as of right now, and you hope it could be more, but he's almost more of like your third linebacker. Like, that's kind of like, he's so I know he's very small, but that's where you can kind of go 4-3 and split the difference a little bit, where he gives you a little bit more coverage ability than maybe a linebacker, but he is so comfortable being aggressive, sniffing around in the box. His coverage reps have been pretty tough but it's a day 3 rookie, so we're not killing him. But I think that's kind of his role. Yeah, ironically, I still think the draft class might age to be okay. Not amazing, but okay, because I think remember the whole weapon or offensive lineman, they seem to kind of thread that needle pretty nicely, getting the combo of Membu and Taylor. I think AZ Thomas, like, if he was starting, he'd probably do okay. I think he'll eventually be a starter. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then I think Smith and Moore will play some sort of role for you. And then Malagoa will be like the new Chaz Surratt, who's on the team every year for no reason. And Tyler Barron will probably be in Canada in like a year or whatever. So, that's kind of your standard run-of-the-mill NFL draft. It's just, I don't know. The 2 last picks, it's like, can we not? But whatever. It's the fifth round. So,
yeah. Hey, we should also be reminded, even in Joe Douglas's loved 2022 class, the last 2 picks were Max Mitchell and Michael Clemens. So, like, it's always like those bottom 2 picks. Like, we're not going to agree with them more often than not, and they're more often
still
than
here.
Not. They're going to prove us right. And yes, again, they're probably going to be here way too long. But
even if Max Mitchell could be a capable 6th offensive lineman, that's not the worst outcome for a 4th-round pick, to be honest.
100%. Yeah, especially because he over-exceeded expectations year 1 and then drastically exceeded expectations in years 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So if you can get him swinging back, the pendulum going back in the normal direction year 4, that's fine. We see the opposite with Michael Clemens, right? The preseason of his rookie year, him and Tanzel Smart are on top of the world, crushing interior defense or offensive linemen in preseason, which is fine. And then nothing translated to the regular season. And every year since, it's been regression. At least we've seen up and downs, and now at least a bit of an upswing back for Max Mitchell. But again, in a very niche role that the coaching staff had to find for him. And it wasn't like the last coaching staff just saying, okay, you're our backup swing tackle, go have fun. It's like, yeah, it's all about what the coaches do with each player. But yeah, I think these draft classes, this one is definitely going to age better than 2024, at least in my opinion. I think those top 5 guys are going to have a role moving forward for at least this year, next year, and possibly the 3rd year. Like, I don't see any of these guys, any of those top 5 guys leaving early. Like, I don't see that, because usually they leave early because they're trash, or because they're so good that you trade them and don't want to give them the early extension. And I don't see a path of either for Malachi Moore or Arian Smith, and you're going to want to hold on to Membu, Taylor, and AZ Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, and if Membu, because I know he had a tough game on Sunday, but Membu looking like he could be an all-pro right tackle kind of bails you out a little bit. I still think they got weird on day 3. They got weird on day 3, and they got to learn from that. But like we've seen, like guys, go look at like the 2021 or like the 2020 draft class where it was like Becton, Mims, Ashton Davis,
Zuniga,
Jabari Zuniga, LaMichael Pirine, James Morgan. It was like 4 4th-round picks and a 3rd-round pick and a 2nd-round pick, like all set directly on fire. So, it was like a normal draft. Some of the free agency additions they've made have definitely not been good. It seems like if you just put like Malachi Moore and AZ Thomas out there for Brandon Stevens and Cisco, it would make no difference. So yeah, I'd probably rather have that $20 million rolled into next year, just to address other holes. And Sherwood looks like kind of a miss. So that's a lot of money. You talk about that's like $35 million on veteran defenders, like on a per year, like an AAV, to guys who look like they're completely replaceable by like street level talent, which maybe that's an exaggeration, but I don't know. I mean, Sherwood and Cisco particularly. Ironically, Stevens has kind of been okay recently.
Well, yeah, Stevens, I think, has the last 2 games has at least shown the willingness to tackle. He's definitely getting aggressive. He's a little handsy in coverage still, but they're not getting the calls against him, which is fine. You're doing your job as a corner. You're getting us off the field. I think he was responsible for getting us off the field on 2 third downs against the Cowboys. And the thing is with him, you're not necessarily lighting the money on fire if you decide to play him at safety, right? You're still allocating him, and like he's still a starter for your team or at least a rotational player, but you're not just sending him to the gulag or the bench and just like killing the contract and just saying we're going to cut him and the next year and a half is going to be great, like Salah said with Alan Lazard basically. Jamie and Sherwood, dude, what do you do with that guy? Like you can't move him anywhere. You can't hide him anywhere because he plays in the middle of the defense. Like I'm pretty sure he's the green dot now that Quincy's hurt. Like there's just so much little you can do with Jamie and Sherwood, and some of those effort plays, him and Cisco are at like the forefront of my what the hell kind of effort is this? Down in and down out. That touchdown run was abysmal by Jamie and Sherwood. And even Andre Cisco, like slightly jogging over the top and like meeting the tight end at the point of attack and like not really trying to get around him. Like I think back to that Sauce play on the Devon A-Chain toss touchdown where Sauce just came in and cracked down on the lead blocker. We need more of that. I don't care what the score is. I don't care what physical condition some of these guys are in, and I know some of them are playing through injuries. You have to go out there and put that on film. You taking out the lead blocker and allowing the guy behind you to have a one-on-one opportunity to make a tackle. Whether he makes the tackle or not, you still have to go in as the point man and say, okay, I'm going to take on this tight end block, and I'm going to try to blow him the F up, and hopefully the guy behind me gets the tackle and gets the job done instead of just lollygagging to the ball. And then Jamie and Sherwood showed the most fake upset at letting up a touchdown I've ever seen on the Jake Ferguson tight end screen touchdown. He just went, oh, man, and just like walked off the field. It's like, we'll get him next time. It's like, dude, you won't get him any time. So, like, what the hell are we doing? Brandon Stevens, you can mitigate. Jamie and Sherwood, I'm scared because you can't really hide him. Jake Asman, $2 super chat. Appreciate you, bro. He says, do you guys think we will ever not suck? Thanks.
Like you said, I think 2027 is maybe the year because of multiple things. Like I know once you mentioned the Jets drafting a quarterback, people, it's like an automatic button. It's like when the guy Toy Story Woody, where he has like certain things you could press and it's like 5 sayings he has. Like when the Jets start getting bad, that's what our discourse becomes. It's like 5 sayings. Yeah. And one of them is Justin Fields is not the problem. It's like, dude, okay, but they're probably going to take a quarterback. So what does it matter? Not being the problem is not synonymous with being the solution, right? So they're probably going to take a quarterback. Then next year, that quarterback is going to be a rookie, and you're still going to be having to build up a roster. So they're going to need multiple good drafts in a row now, and like pretty shrewd, well-played free agencies, and have that quarterback have a second-year leap to be like a playoff contender. So you're looking at 2027, which at this point if I knew if we were as expected that we were to suck, then I think they should have done it more frugally. I think they shouldn't have signed any of these guys and taken all the Mosley and Riders dead money in 1 year and rolled into the next year with the most amount of cap space like the Patriots did and just bought themselves an entire defense. And then the Patriots are going to be like a wild card team because they had a young quarterback and they bought themselves an entire defense because they had $1 gazillion to burn. So they probably should have done that if the plan was, big ships turn slow and all that. It's like, all right, well, then they should have turned cheaper.
Yeah, and just using the Patriots timeline, it sucks because now we can't do any of those things because you've done that this year. You kind of sucked and you said we were going to win and now we suck. And now next year, if you wanted to do the first year Patriots thing where you draft the rookie quarterback, he plays spot duty here and there. He has a pretty average to below average rookie season, but that you take that second year leap and you spend all that money. We're now in the third free agency period of Muji and Glenn. Do they deserve it? If we had to go through 2 years of what looks like this to get to hopefully that second year of the Patriots with Drake May. So like they've put the onus on them that, yeah, their free agencies and their draft classes have to be pretty mint. And the guy that they pick to be the quarterback of the future, whether they start Fields, for the first couple games of 2026, or they just immediately flip to the rookie, like they have to make sure that that's the guy. And it puts the onus on them. And we'll get through it, as hopefully the season goes on and wins start mounting and we figure out exactly where we're drafting. Like I would almost rather be forced to take like the second or third quarterback off the board rather than have the pressures of taking the number 1 overall pick. And I feel like at that point, the Jets should consider trading out, but I don't want to get all the way out there. BJF, what do you got coming up on the channel? We'll end it with that and pray for some more positivity.
Just normal content on the channel. Hopefully we get 1 win, man. I don't think it's going to be Denver. I wish I had Carolina up next because that's like maybe we could win, but Denver's gonna be tough, man.
3 more games to the bye. We'll leave it with this. 3 more games to the bye. They're in UK this week. Then they come home and they play Carolina. Then they go to Cincinnati and they could face Mike White. What is the record going into the bye week?
Wait, well, no, isn't the bye week after London?
They didn't take it. They play Carolina.
Oh, okay. Then I have my schedule mixed up. Okay, so
their bye week is week 9. Yeah.
It's London. Or it's Denver, Carolina, and Cincinnati.
Yep.
I mean, they're probably 1-7.
Yeah, and the win probably comes against the Bengals, not the Panthers.
Yeah, those are 2. Like I know no one wants to hear winnable games, but those are 2 teams that are very much like about as bad as we are. So you should be able to beat one of them.
The expectation is not the absolute lowest against those teams. And that means that you should have your players get up for those games, right? And if they're not playing for the coach, they should at least be playing for themselves in those moments and hopefully not passing off blame to their safeties that are supposed to help over the top.
Not ideal.
With that, signing off, Buffalo Jet fan. I am DT. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you are new, and we will go and see you next time, next Monday on Buffalo's channel. Let's go Jets.